Yemeni Civil War, 2015 to 2018, timeline. Conflict begins. Troops loyal to Hadi clashed with those who refused to recognize his authority in the Battle of Aden Airport on March 19, 2015. The forces under General Abdul Hafez al-Saqaf were defeated, and al-Saqaf himself reportedly fled towards Sana'a. In apparent retaliation for the routing of al-Saqaf, warplanes reportedly flown by Houthi pilots bombed Hadi's compound in Aden. After the 2015 Sana'a mosque bombings on March 20, 2015, in a televised speech, Abdul Malik al-Houthi, the leader of the Houthis, said his group's decision to mobilize for war was imperative under current circumstances and that al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula and its affiliates, among whom he counts Hadi, would be targeted, as opposed to southern Yemen and its citizens. President Hadi declared Aden to be Yemen's temporary capital while Sana'a remained under Houthi control. Also, the same day as the mosque bombings, al-Qaeda militants captured the provincial capital of Lahij, al-Hauda district, after killing about 20 soldiers, before being driven out several hours later. Political developments. Hadi reiterated in a speech on 21 March that he was the legitimate president of Yemen and declared, "We will restore security to the country and hoist the flag of Yemen in Sana'a, instead of the Iranian flag." He also officially declared Aden to be Yemen's economic and temporary capital due to the Houthi occupation of Sana'a, which he pledged would be retaken. In Sana'a, the Houthi Revolutionary Committee appointed Major General Hussein Khair as Yemen's new defense minister and placed him in overall command of the military offensive. Control of Taiz. Houthi forces backed by troops loyal to Saleh entered Taiz, Yemen's third-largest city, on 22 March and quickly took over its key points. They encountered little resistance, although one protester was shot dead and 5 more were injured. Western media outlets began to suggest Yemen was sliding into civil war as the Houthis from the north confronted holdouts in the south. Western Yemen advance. On March 23, 2015, Houthi forces advanced towards the strategic Bab el-Mandeb Strait, a vital corridor through which much of the world's maritime trade passes. The next day, fighters from the group reportedly entered the port of Mocha. On 31 March, Houthi fighters entered a coastal military base on the strait after the 17th Armored Division of the Yemen Army opened the gates and turned over weapons to them. On 2 April, Mohammed Ali Yusuf, the foreign minister of Djibouti, said the Houthis placed heavy weapons and fast attack boats on Parim and a smaller island in the Bab el-Mandeb Strait. He warned that the weapons posed a big danger to his country, commercial shipping traffic, and military vessels. Southern Offensive. Battle of Dhale. Houthi forces seized administrative buildings in Dhale, or Dhale, amid heavy fighting on 24 March, bringing them closer to Aden. However, Houthi fighters were swiftly dislodged from Ad-Dhale and Kirsh by Hadi-loyal forces. Fighting over Dhale continued even as the Houthis advanced further south and east. On 31 March, Hadi loyalists clashed with the Houthis and army units loyal to Saleh. The next day, a pro-Houthi army brigade was said to have disintegrated after being pummeled by coalition warplanes in Ad-Dhale. The commander of the 33rd Brigade reportedly fled, and groups of pro-Houthi troops withdrew to the north. The city reportedly fell into pro-government hands by the end of May. Fighting in Lahij. In the Lahij Governorate, heavy fighting erupted between Houthis and pro-Hadi fighters on 24 March. The next day, Al-Anad Air Base, 60 kilometers from Aden, was captured by the Houthis and their allies. The base had recently been abandoned by United States of America U.S. SOCOM troops. Defense Minister Mahmoud al-Sabihi, one of Hadi's top lieutenants, was captured by the Houthis in al-Hauda and transferred to Sana'a. Houthi fighters also advanced to Dar Saad, a small town, 20 kilometers north of Aden. On 26 March, after clashes erupted in Aden, Hadi loyalists counterattacked as a Saudi-led military intervention got underway. Artillery shelled Al-Anad Air Base, forcing some of its Houthi occupants to flee the area. Saudi airstrikes also hit Al-Anad. Despite the airstrikes, the southern offensive continued. Fighting reaches Aden. In Aden, Military officials said militias and military units loyal to Hadi had fragmented by 25 March, speeding the rebel advance. They said the rebels were fighting Hadi's troops on 5 different fronts. Aden International Airport suspended all flights. Fighting reached Aden's outskirts on 25 March, with pro-Saleh soldiers taking over Aden International Airport and clashes erupting at an army base. Hadi reportedly fled his temporary capital by boat as the unrest worsened. The next day, he resurfaced in the Saudi capital, Riyadh, where he arrived by plane and was met by Saudi Prince Mohammed bin Salman Al Saud. Over the following days, Houthi and allied army forces encircled Aden and hemmed in Hadi's holdouts, although they encountered fierce resistance from the embattled president's loyalists and armed city residents. They began pressing into the city center on 29 March despite coalition airstrikes and shelling from Egyptian Navy warships offshore. On 2 April, the compound that has been used as a temporary presidential palace was taken by the Houthis, and fighting moved into the central crater and Al-Mu'alla districts. A small contingent of foreign troops were reportedly deployed in Aden by early May, fighting alongside anti-Houthi militiamen in the city. Saudi Arabia denied the presence of ground troops, while Hadi's government claimed the troops were Yemeni special forces who had received training in the Persian Gulf and were redeployed to fight in Aden. It is reported that forces loyal to Hadi have recaptured Aden with support from the Saudi Arabian government. This has allowed supplies to finally reach the port city, giving civilians well-needed aid. Pro-government fighters fully recaptured Aden from Houthi fighters on 21 July in Operation Golden Arrow after months of fighting. At this point, the pro-government fighters had recaptured more than 90% of the province of Aden. On 22 July, a Saudi military plane landed in Aden International Airport filled with relief aid. On 21 July, a UN ship docked in Aden carrying much-needed relief supplies, the first UN vessel to reach the city in 4 months. Another ship sent by the UAE also delivered medical aid. On 21 July, a UAE technical team had arrived to repair the tower and passenger terminal at Aden International Airport, heavily damaged in clashes. On 24 July, a military plane from the UAE arrived filled with relief aid. On 4 August, Houthi rebels were pushed back from the Al Anad air base by pro-Hadi forces. On 17 October, Saudi Arabia confirmed the arrival of Sudanese troops into Aden for the purpose of bolstering the Saudi-led coalition. In January 2016, new conflict began in Aden, with ISIL and ACAP controlling neighborhoods in the city. Other campaigns. Abyan Governorate. The Houthis racked up a series of victories in the Abyan Governorate east of Aden in the days following their entrance into Hadi's provisional capital, taking control of Shakra and Zinjibar on the coast and winning the allegiance of a local army brigade, but they also encountered resistance from both pro-Hadi army brigadiers and Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula militants. Zinjibar and Har were recaptured by ACAP on 2 December. In February 20, 2016, the southern Abyan, also captured by ACAP, linked them with their headquarters in Mukalla. Shabwah Governorate. As of February 2016, Loyalist forces have managed to enter Shabwah Governorate by capturing the Naim district, killing dozens of Houthi fighters. They continued advance, capturing some cities and villages. Hadhramaut Governorate. Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula took control of Mukalla in the eastern Hadhramaut Governorate on 2 April, driving out soldiers defending the city with mortar fire and springing some 300 inmates from prison, including a local Al-Qaeda leader. Local tribal fighters aligned with Hadi surrounded and entered Mukalla 2 days later, retaking parts of the city and clashing with both Al-Qaeda militants and army troops. Still, the militants remained in control of about half of the town. In addition, Al-Qaeda fighters captured a border post with Saudi Arabia in an attack that killed 2 soldiers. On April 13, 2015, southern militia said they took control of the army base loyal to the Houthis near Balhaf. Mukalla city was recaptured from ACAP in late April 2016, after UAE and Hadi loyalists troops entered the city, killing some 800 ACAP fighters. Lahij Governorate. Although the Houthis took control of Lahij on the road to Aden, resistance continued in the Lahij Governorate. Ambushes and bombings struck Houthi supply lines to the Aden front, with a landmine killing a reported 25 Houthi fighters on their way to Aden on 28 March. Shabwah Governorate. Fighting also centered on the Shabwah province, in the oil-rich U.S. Aden region, where Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula, AQAP, and Ansar al-Sharia hold sway. On 29 March, 38 were killed in fighting between the Houthis and Sunni tribesmen. Tribal sources confirmed the death toll, and claimed only 8 of them were from their side, with the other 30 either Houthis or their allies from the Yemeni military. On 9 April, the Houthis and their allies seized the provincial capital of Ataq. The takeover was facilitated by local tribal chiefs and security officials. ACAP seized Aden and Aden in early February 2016. Elsewhere. In the province of Marib, 6 members of pro-Hadi tribes were killed during fighting against Houthis on 22 March. The next day, 15 Houthis and 5 tribesmen were killed in clashes in the Al-Bayda Governorate. During fighting between Hadi loyalists and Houthi militiamen in Sana'a, the Ethiopian embassy was reportedly struck by shelling on 3 April. The Ethiopian government said the attack appeared to be unintentional. No injuries at the embassy were reported. Armed tribesmen drove off Houthis who had set up a makeshift camp in southern Abyan Governorate and seized their weapons on 7 April. Between 17 and 18 April, at least 30 people were killed when the Houthis and allied army units attacked a pro-Hadi military base in Taiz. The dead included 8 to 16 pro-Hadi and 14 to 19 Houthi fighters, as well as 3 civilians. Another report put the number of dead at 85. On the morning of 19 April, 10 more Houthi and 4 pro-Hadi fighters were killed. A pro-Hadi official claimed 150 pro-Houthi and 27 tribal fighters had been killed in fighting in Marib province between 2 and 21 April. On 4 September, a Houthi missile hit an ammunition dump at a military base in Marib, killing 45 UAE, 10 Saudi and 5 Bahraini soldiers. On 16 October, Houthis and allied forces reportedly seized control of a military base in the town of Mukhairis, pushing opponents out of southern Bayda. On January 6, 2016, Hadi loyalists captured the strategic port of Midi district, but insurgents backed by the Houthi government continued making attacks in and around the city. Military intervention. Saudi-led intervention in Yemen. In response to rumors that Saudi Arabia could intervene in Yemen, Houthi commander Ali al-Shami boasted on March 24, 2015 that his forces would invade the larger kingdom and not stop at Mecca, but rather Riyadh. The following evening, answering a request by Yemen International Recognized Government, Saudi Arabia began a military intervention alongside 8 other Arab states and with the logistical support of the United States against the Houthis, bombing positions throughout Sana'a. In a joint statement, the nations of the Gulf Cooperation Council, with the exception of Oman, said they decided to intervene against the Houthis in Yemen at the request of Hadi's government. King Salman of Saudi Arabia declared the Royal Saudi Air Force to be in full control of Yemeni airspace within hours of the operation beginning. The airstrikes were aimed at hindering the Houthis' advance toward Hadi's stronghold in southern Yemen. Al Jazeera reported that Muhammad Ali al-Houthi, a Houthi commander appointed in February as president of the Revolutionary Committee, was injured by an airstrike in Sana'a on the first night of the campaign. Reuters reported that planes from Egypt, Morocco, Jordan, Sudan, Kuwait, United Arab Emirates, Qatar, and Bahrain are also taking part in the operation. Iran condemned the Saudi-led airstrikes and urged an immediate end to attacks on Yemen. Saudi Arabia requested that Pakistan commit forces as well, but Pakistan's parliament officially voted to remain neutral. However, Pakistan agreed to provide support in line with the United Nations Security Council resolution, dispatching warships to enforce an arms embargo against the Houthis. The bombing campaign was officially declared over on April 21, 2015, with Saudi officials saying they would begin Operation Restoring Hope as a combination of political, diplomatic, and military efforts to end the war. Even still, airstrikes continued against Houthi targets, and fighting in Aden and Adali went on. The United Arab Emirates has also spearheaded an active role against fighting ACAP and ISIL presence in Yemen through a partnership with the United States. In an op-ed in the Washington Post, Yusuf al-Otaiba, the UAE ambassador to the United States, described that the intervention has reduced ACAP presence in Yemen to its weakest point since 2012, with many areas previously under their control liberated. The ambassador claimed that more than 2,000 militants have been removed from the battlefield, with their controlled areas now having improved security and a better delivered humanitarian and development assistance such as to the port city of Mukalla and other liberated areas. An Associated Press investigation outlined that the military coalition in Yemen actively reduced ACAP in Yemen without military intervention, instead by offering them deals and even actively recruiting them in the coalition because they are considered as exceptional fighters. UAE Brigadier General Musallam al-Rashidi responded to the accusations by stating that al-Qaeda cannot be reasoned with and cited that multiple of his soldiers have been killed by them. The UAE military stated that accusations of allowing ACAP to leave with cash contradicts their primary objective of depriving ACAP of its financial strength. The notion of the coalition recruiting or paying ACAP has been thoroughly denied by the United States Pentagon, with Colonel Robert Manning, spokesperson of the Pentagon, calling the news source patently false. The governor of Hadhramaut, Faraj al-Bashani, dismissed the accusations that al-Qaeda has joined with the coalition rank, explaining that if they did there would be sleeper cells and that he would be the first one to be killed. According to The Independent, ACAP activity on social media as well as the number of terror attacks conducted by them has decreased since the Emirati intervention. A certification and assurance was announced by U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, stating that maximum efforts are being taken by the Saudi-led coalition to avoid civilian casualties in order to legally authorize American military to refuel coalition military aircraft, and has affirmed to continued its support. The Spanish government initially cancelled the sale of 400 laser-guided bombs to Saudi Arabia. However, they have since reversed the decision. Arab League. In Egypt, the Yemeni foreign minister called for an Arab League military intervention against the Houthis. Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi floated the idea of a unified military force. The Arab League announced the formation of a unified military force to respond to conflict in Yemen and Libya. Drone strikes. Since the mid-2000s, the United States has been carrying out targeted killings of al-Qaeda militants in Yemen, although the U.S. government generally does not confirm involvement in specific attacks conducted by unmanned aerial vehicles as a matter of policy. The Bureau of Investigative Journalism documented 415 strikes in Pakistan and Yemen by 2015 since the September 11 attacks, and according to the organization's estimates, between 423 and 962 deaths are believed to have been civilians. However, Michael Morell, former deputy director of the CIA, affirmed that the numbers were significantly lower. During the civil war in Yemen, drone strikes have continued, targeting suspected leaders of al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula. Ibrahim al-Rubish and Nasser bin Ali al-Ansi, two leading ACAP figures, were killed by U.S. drone strikes in the vicinity of Mukalla in 2015. Approximately 240 suspected ACAP militants have been killed by American drone strikes since the civil war began. In 2013, Raja al-Mutawakkil and Abdul Rashid al-Faqih, directors of Muwatana, published a joint report with Open Society Foundations titled Death by Drone, detailing evidence of civilian casualties and damage to civilian objects in 9 U.S. drone strikes. Islamic State presence in operations. The Islamic State, has proclaimed several provinces in Yemen and has urged its adherents to wage war against the Houthi movement, as well as against Zaydis in general. ISIS militants have conducted bombing attacks in various parts of the country, particularly against mosques in Sana'a. On October 6, 2015, IS militants conducted a series of suicide bombings in Aden that killed 15 soldiers affiliated with the Hadi-led government and the Saudi-led coalition. The attacks were directed against the Al-Khazar Hotel, which had been the headquarters for pro-Hadi officials, and also military facilities. Yemeni officials and UAE state news agency declared that 11 Yemeni and 4 United Arab Emirates soldiers were killed in Aden due to 4 coordinated Islamic State suicide bombings. Prior to the claim of responsibility by the Islamic State, UAE officials blamed the Houthis and former President Ali Abdullah Saleh for the attacks. May 2015 truce. A 5-day ceasefire proposed by Saudi Arabia was accepted by the Houthis and their allies in the military on May 10, 2015. The ceasefire was intended to allow the delivery of humanitarian aid to the country. The temporary truce began on the night of 12 May to allow the delivery of food, water, medical, and fuel aid throughout the country. On the 4th day of the truce, the fragile peace unraveled as fighting broke out in multiple southern governorates. At least 3 civilians in Aden and 12 in Taiz were killed on 16 May, despite the ceasefire. Agence France-Presse reported that dozens were killed in southern Yemen by the clashes, including 26 Houthi and 12 pro-Hadi fighters. Omani Initiative. Around the same time, reports surfaced in the media suggesting that Oman, which is the only Middle Eastern monarchy not taking part in the coalition and has a border with Yemen, has presented a 7-point plan to both Houthis and Saudi Arabia. The Houthis accepted the peace talks and the 7-point plan, while Saudi Arabia and Hadi government refused negotiations with the Houthis. It has also been suggested that Oman was responsible to mediate a 24-hour ceasefire, although analysts doubted if Oman could help bring about more rigid negotiations. The following parts constituted the planned initiative: the withdrawal of the Houthis and forces loyal to deposed President Ali Abdullah Saleh from all Yemeni cities, and the return of military hardware and munitions seized from the Yemeni army. The restoration of the President Abd Rabbo Mansur Hadi and the government of Khalid Baha. Early parliamentary and presidential elections. An agreement signed by all Yemeni parties. The conversion of Ansarullah into a political party. An international aid conference attended by donor states. Yemen entering the Gulf Cooperation Council. Sabeen Square mass demonstration. On Saturday, August 20, 2016, there were demonstrations at Satin Sanaa's Sabeen Square to show support for the Higher Political Council, the Shia Houthi rebel governing body, and former Yemeni President Ali Abdullah Saleh. The head of council pledged to form a full government within days. The crowd size was variously placed at tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands. The crowd's demands were quickly rejected by the United Nations and the country's internationally recognized government. Meanwhile, Saudi planes roared above the population and bombed nearby, leaving an unknown number of casualties. 2017. On 29 January, the Yakla raid occurred. U.S. Navy SEALs executed a raid. President Barack Obama's national security aides had reviewed the plans for a risky attack. Mr. Obama did not act because the Pentagon wanted to launch the attack on a moonless night, and the next one would come after his term had ended. With only 5 days in office, President Trump was given the task. The raid caused several civilian casualties, with a chain of mishaps and misjudgments leading to a 50-minute shootout that led to the killing of 1 SEAL, the wounding of 3 other SEALs, and the deliberate destruction of a $75 million U.S. MV-22 Osprey aircraft that had been badly damaged on landing. The U.S. government reported that 14 al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula fighters were killed and acknowledged that civilian non-combatants likely were killed as well. Human Rights Watch, citing witness statements, reported the death of 14 civilians, including 9 children. From 1 to March 8, 2017, the U.S. conducted 45 airstrikes against ACAP, a record amount of airstrikes conducted against the group by the U.S. in recent history. The airstrikes were reported to have killed hundreds of ACAP militants. On March 25, 2017, a court in the Houthi-controlled Sana'a sentenced Hadi and 6 other government officials to death in absentia for high treason in the form of incitement and assistance to Saudi Arabia and its allies. The sentence was announced by the Houthi-controlled Sabeen news agency. In May 2017, ISIL's wilayats in Yemen released their videos, claiming attacks upon both government, Houthi and ACAP targets. 1. They recorded their attack upon a Houthi target, then assassinating government troops and tribal members. Then posting their suicide attacks. On July 22, 2017, Houthis and forces loyal to Ali Abdullah Saleh launched a retaliation missile, called Volcano H-2, on Saudi Arabia, targeting the oil refineries in the Yanbu province of Saudi Arabia. Houthis and Ali Saleh media have claimed that the missile hit its target, causing a major fire, while Saudi Arabia has claimed that it was due to the extreme heat that caused one of the generators to blow up. On July 27, 2017, Houthis and forces loyal to Ali Abdullah Saleh launched approximately 4 Volcano 1 missiles at King Fahad Air Base. The Houthis and Saleh said that the missiles had successfully hit their targets, whereas Saudi Arabia said that it was able to shoot down the missiles, claiming that the Houthis' real goal was to hit Mecca. CNN reported that on October 1, 2017, a U.S. MQ-9 Reaper drone was shot down north of Sana'a. The Houthi-controlled Defense Ministry said that it had downed the drone. Also, sometime in late 2017, In a gradual escalation of U.S. military action, a group of U.S. Army commandos arrived to seek and destroy Houthi missiles near the Saudi Arabian border. In public statements, the U.S. government has tried to keep secret the extent of its involvement in the conflict since the Houthis pose no direct threat to America. CNN reported that on October 16, 2017, the U.S. carried out its first airstrikes specifically targeting ISIS-IP. The strikes targeted 2 ISIS training camps in Al-Bayda Governorate. A U.S. defense official told CNN that there were an estimated 50 fighters at the camps. The Pentagon said in a statement that the camp's purpose was to train militants to conduct terror attacks using AK-47s, machine guns, rocket-propelled grenade launchers and endurance training. Strikes disrupted the organization's attempts to train new fighters. The strikes were carried out in cooperation with the government of Yemen. On December 2, 2017, Ali Abdullah Saleh formally split with the Houthis, calling for a dialogue with Saudi Arabia to end the civil war. Clashes in Sana'a ensued. On December 4, 2017, Saleh was attacked and later killed by Houthi fighters while trying to flee Sana'a. Shortly after his death, Saleh's son, Ahmed Saleh, called for Saleh's forces to split from the Houthis. On December 7, 2017, troops loyal to Hadi captured the strategic coastal town of Al-Khawka in western Yemen, 115 kilometers south of Al-Hudaydah, from the Houthis. It was the first time in 3 years forces loyal to Hadi had entered the Al-Hudaydah Governorate. On December 16, 2017, troops loyal to Hadi captured the cities of Bayan and Aden, officially ending Houthi presence in any major city that is a part of the Shabwah Governorate. The Arab coalition placed the number of enemy fighters killed at 11,000 as of December 2017. 2018. The Southern separatists represented by the Southern Transitional Council were backing the Hadi government against the Houthis, but tensions erupted in January 2018 with the separatists accusing the government of corruption and discrimination. Gun battles erupted in Aden on January 28, 2018 after the deadline set by the separatists for Hadi to dismiss his cabinet elapsed. Pro-STC forces seized a number of government offices, including the Hadi government's headquarters. By 30th of January, the STC had taken control of most of the city. On March 3, 2018, fighting between Yemen's Houthi Ansarullah movement and Saudi-backed troops left over 55 people dead in the Naim district in Yemen's north, with many more wounded. On the same day, fighting between the opposing groups killed at least 25 people along the western coast of Yemen. Also in early March 2018, Houthi fighters killed 4 Saudi sharpshooters in retaliation for Saudi Arabia's numerous attacks on Yemen. On March 8, 2018, the Saudi-led coalition conducted airstrikes across Yemen that left 9 Yemeni civilians, including women and children, dead. The following day, Houthi rebels launched an attack on a military site in Jizan. On April 2, 2018, the Saudi-led coalition bombed a residential housing area in Al-Hudaydah, killing at least 14 civilians and wounding 9. On April 7, 2018, according to pro-Houthi Shiite news, dozens of Sudanese troops were ambushed and killed by Houthis, which led to calls for Sudan to stop fighting in the war in Yemen. On April 9, 2018, another series of airstrikes by Saudi Arabia killed at least 22 civilians in Yemen, with more injured. A few days later, on 12th of April, Saudi Arabia bombed the set of a TV series in western Yemen, killing 2 people. Another series of airstrikes by Saudi Arabia hit Yemen on 16th of April, which left at least 6 civilians, including at least 1 child, dead, with several others wounded. On April 19, 2018, another series of Saudi killed at least 5 civilians and injured several others. In response to Saudi Arabia's aggression against Yemen, Houthi forces hit a mercenary camp in Saudi Arabia with artillery and rocket fire, which killed and wounded some people at the mercenary camp, targeted a power plant in the Najran region of Saudi Arabia, and targeted an airport in Jizan. Saudi Arabia later carried out a series of airstrikes in northwestern Sana'a that destroyed 3 houses, as well as an aerial attack in southwestern Yemen that left 20 people dead. The same day, 2 leaders of al-Qaeda in Yemen were killed on Thursday after a security raid was carried out by Yemeni forces in the province of Abyan. The security sources said that the leaders of al-Qaeda in Yemen, Murad Abdullah Muhammad al-Dubli, nicknamed Abu Hamza al-Batani, and Hassan Basri were killed after a raid by security forces in the al-Qaeda stronghold. Also known as al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula or ACAP, al-Qaeda are primarily active in Yemen. The U.S. government believes ACAP to be the most dangerous al-Qaeda brands. On April 22, 2018, the Saudi-led coalition carried out airstrikes on a wedding in Hajjah, a town in northwestern Yemen. The airstrikes left at least 33 people dead and 41 wounded. The attack consisted of 2 missiles that hit several minutes apart. Most of the people killed were women, including the bride at the wedding, and children. Ambulances were not able to get to the site of the attack at first, because, as jets were continuing to fly overhead after the attack, there were concerns about further airstrikes. Houthi media outlets announced on April 23, 2018 that a Houthi political leader had been killed in an airstrike by the Saudi-led coalition the previous week. Also on 23 April, an aerial attack by Saudi Arabia in Hajjah killed 18 people and wounded 13 others, while another airstrike by the Saudi-led coalition in Sada killed at least 3 people and wounded 2 others. The same day, Houthi forces announced that they had fired 2 missiles at an oil facility in Jizan, a Saudi province near the Saudi-Yemeni border. On April 25, 2018, Houthi forces destroyed a tank of the Saudi-led coalition on the western coast of Yemen. It was also reported by Yemen's official news agency that 13 Saudi-led troops had been killed or wounded in several parts of Yemen. Later in April 2018, another series of Saudi airstrikes across a period of 24 hours killed at least 8 civilians across Yemen, 7 of whom were women and children. At least 10 other civilians were injured as a result of the airstrikes. On May 6, 2018, a Houthi ballistic missile hit Saudi military positions in Asir. 2 Saudi troops were also killed by Houthi snipers in the Haskell military base in Jizan. At around the same time, Saudi Arabia was bombing various parts of northern Yemen. A Saudi bombing in Sada killed 5 members of a family, and Saudi air raids in Hudaydah left 2 civilians killed. Saudi Arabia also bombed Hajjah, which ended up being bombed 10 times over a 24-hour period. On May 7, 2018, airstrikes by the Saudi-led coalition hit Yemen's presidency building. The attack left at least 6 people dead, all of whom were civilians. 30 people were also wounded in the airstrikes. The following day, clashes between the Houthis and pro-Hadi forces in Taiz allegedly left dozens of Hadi militants killed, with several others wounded. On May 9, 2018, Houthi forces fired ballistic missiles at economic targets in Riyadh. According to Colonel Aziz Rashid, a military spokesman for the Houthi Ansarullah movement, the missile attack was revenge for Saudi Arabia's airstrikes in Yemen. On May 10, 2018, separate Saudi-led airstrikes on Yemeni residential areas killed 2 entire families. One of the airstrikes, which targeted a house in Sana'a, killed a father, mother, and 2 children from the same family, as well as 2 other civilians, in addition to wounding 6 people, including 3 children. Also on 10 May, Houthi forces claimed to have destroyed 2 Abrams tanks of the Saudi army in Jizan. On May 11, 2018, it was reported that cluster bombs made by the United States were being used by Saudi Arabia. Also on 11 May, the United Nations Human Rights Office reported that April had been the deadliest month to date in 2018 in Yemen, with 236 civilian deaths and 238 civilian injuries in April alone. This was an increase from the 180 civilian casualties in March of that year. On 14 May, the Houthis fired a ballistic missile at a Saudi Aramco oil facility in Jizan. Pro-Houthi forces also shot down a Saudi reconnaissance drone in Jizan, in southwestern Saudi Arabia. On 17 May, Houthi forces fired another ballistic missile at a military base in Lahij, in southwestern Yemen, that was run by Saudi soldiers. Also on 17 May, Amnesty International said that heavy fighting near al-Hudaydah has displaced tens of thousands of people. It also warned that the worst could be yet to come, as Saudi-backed militants were advancing towards the Houthi-controlled area. Amnesty International also said that clashes along the western coast of Yemen had displaced around 100,000 people in recent months, with most people from al-Hudaydah Governorate. It added that it was a glimpse of what potentially lies in store on a wider scale if the fighting encroaches on the densely populated port city. On 18 May, another Houthi missile was fired into Jizan, in southwestern Saudi Arabia. The missile was reported to have struck Jazan Economic City. Also on 18 May, over a dozen Saudi soldiers were killed and injured by Houthi snipers and their allies. On 21 May, Houthi forces fired a ballistic missile targeting Jizan Airport. Also on 21 May, the Saudi-led coalition launched 11 airstrikes on the Kitaf district of Sada, in northern Yemen. Saudi rockets and artillery shells also hit several border areas, which inflicted heavy casualties on houses and farms of citizens. Further, on the night of 21 May, clashes were reported to have started between forces of the UAE and Qatar in the Taiz province of Yemen. On 22 May, 10 Saudi soldiers and 5 Saudi commanders were allegedly killed in an attempt to restore a series of mountains in Jizan. On 24th of May, it was reported that a Houthi missile targeted a Saudi port in Jizan. At dawn on 25th of May, Yemeni forces fired a ballistic missile at a Saudi military camp in Najran. It was also reported on 25th of May that airstrikes by the Saudi-led coalition killed 7 civilians, in addition to injuring some other civilians, in the Taiz and Sada provinces of Yemen. On 26th of May, Houthi forces announced that military drones had bombarded a Saudi airport in Asir for the second time in over a month. The attack led to the suspension of flights to and from the airport. Also on 26th of May, a Saudi bulldozer near the Al-Ad border crossing was destroyed by Houthi artillery fire. Further, also on that day, 8 airstrikes by the Saudi-led coalition hit Al-Hadhramaut Governorate, while another airstrike by the Saudi-led coalition on a gas station in Sana'a killed at least 4 people and wounded at least 10 others. Also towards the end of May 2018, dozens of pro-Houthi troops were killed and injured along Yemen's western coast. On 28th of May, a Saudi commander was killed in Jizan, and a military vehicle with troops in Najran was destroyed. On 30th of May, Houthi forces downed a spy plane in Asir. Also on 30th of May, Houthi fighters destroyed Saudi military vehicles. In late May 2018, pro-Houthi troops prepared to launch a siege on Hodeidah. Colonel Sadiq Duwait of the pro-Houthi forces stated, "First, we will cut off supply lines, especially between the capital, Sana'a and Hodeidah, then we will place the Houthis under siege." The spokesperson of the United Nations Secretary-General warned that increased fighting would unleash even more internally displaced people, and Amnesty International warned that fighting near the port of Hodeidah had already displaced tens of thousands of people. It also warned against clashes spreading to urban areas. On June 1, 2018, Houthi forces shot down a Saudi helicopter gunship of the Saudi army in an attack that killed all those on board. Also on 1 June, the spokesman for the pro-Houthi forces warned the United Arab Emirates that Abu Dhabi was no longer safe from retaliatory missiles. On 4 June, the leader of Houthi movement claimed that Israeli warplanes had been detected flying over Hodeidah. On June 4, 2018, Yemen's Red Sea Ports Corporation said that a vessel used by the United Nations World Food Programme was attacked after it delivered a shipment in Hodeidah, which is under a blockade by the Saudi-led coalition. Mark Lowcock, the United Nations aid chief, said that no one was injured, but criticized anyone who was attempting to disrupt aid delivery in Hodeidah. The suspect was not known at the time. On Aden June 9, 2018, heavy fighting began in Al-Duryami and Beit al-Faqih, 10 and 35 kilometers from the port city of Al-Hodeidah, respectively. The United Nations warned that a military attack or a siege on the city could cost up to 250,000 lives. On 10 June, it was reported that the United Nations had withdrawn from Hodeidah. Also on 10 June, it was reported that so far, 600 people had died in recent days as the battle intensified. Further, also on 10 June, Al Jazeera published an article containing reports of alleged torture in Houthi prisons in Yemen. On 12 June, it was reported that an airstrike by the Saudi-led coalition hit a Doctors Without Borders building. This was despite markings on the roof of the building identifying it as a building of healthcare and despite the fact that its coordinates had been shared with the coalition. No one was hurt in the attack, but the newly constructed building suffered significant damage. On July 4, 2018, a United Nations report stated that over 121,000 Yemenis had fled Hodeidah due to the attack on the port city by the Saudi-led coalition. On 6 July, Houthi forces fired a domestic ballistic missile at a strategic economic target in Jizan in southwestern Saudi Arabia. On 9 August, a Saudi-led airstrike attack on a school bus in Yemen killed 40 young school children and 11 adults. The 227 kilograms laser-guided bomb used in the attack was purchased by Saudi Arabia from the U.S., which has also been supporting the coalition with intelligence and refueling. On 13 December, a truce was called in Hodeidah, a port city in Yemen. Warring parties agreed to have a ceasefire in the crucial place, which is a lifeline for half the country. The Houthi rebels agreed to have all forces withdraw from Hodeidah in the following days, same as those from the Yemeni government alliance who were fighting them there.